Hello and welcome to another episode of PC Classics. Super Mario Kart. Such a classic. Probably the best kart racing game ever made. But what did you do if you were a soulless bastard who was unlucky enough to not have this gem of American childhood? Well, that's what the guys over at Beavis thought when they designed a Mode 7 kart racing game for the PC called Wacky. It may be a shameless ripoff, but as long as it's fun, who cares? We all need some kart racing action as kids. Beavis didn't have any characters like Nintendo to put as the racers, so they took a bunch of Barnum's animal crackers and superimposed them on karts. Sorry, I mean lawnmowers. All sorts of zoo animals take part in the Great Kart Escape, from a camel to a panda. Somehow they even got a shark to survive out of the water long enough to take part in this insanity. The only problem for Beavis is since they were such a small company and had no publisher, they had to go pitch their idea to a company who could fund and publish their game. So they brought their source code to a company, oddly enough, called Copysoft. And well, they copied the game and released their own title, Scunny Kart, for the PC as well. Of course, that game looks like it would be right at home on the 2600. And while we are on that note, let's talk about the graphics. And well, there is no way of putting this nicely. They suck. Take a look at this cross-section I've got between this game and Mario Kart. The racetracks are bland, the colors are muddy, the backgrounds are boring, and the whole game just feels sterile. Not even the racers have a good amount of detail in them. And all this compared to the vibrant, colorful, and well thought out tracks and characters of Mario Kart. Wacky Wheels looks worse than Mario Kart, a game that was released in 1992, 2 years before Wacky Wheels. And for a piece of hardware that was more like a baby's toy to even the weakest PC microprocessors at the time. This is just unacceptable. Wacky Wheels came out in October of 1994, a year and a half after the original Pentium. Granted, I don't really want to rip my eyes out from the sheer horror of the visuals, but my point is that even the weakest PC of the day could do far better than this. The developers were just really lazy and had no idea how to get the most out of the x86 architecture. The game just cannot, to save its life, run smoothly. And believe me, it is not just the emulator. When I played this game at my friend's house as a kid, it ran just as poorly. I wonder what he's done with his life since that day. Oh well. But the stuttering isn't game-breaking, but it does take a while to get used to, and once you have adapted to it, you will be confronted with this game's inability to understand how a go-kart works in any measure. And for 1,000 points, what is the primary aspect of kart racing? Is it A, four-wheel drifting, B, corner mastery, or is it C, handbrake turns? Well, if you answered C, then you are as stupid as the people at Beavis and Butthead Soft. When have you ever seen a go-kart with a handbrake in it? Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Not to mention, it isn't even a very good system, as most of the time it sends you right into a wall. The sad part is your kart actually does break traction, but since the designers had absolutely no idea how to actually code that into the game, all it does is make you spin out arbitrarily. And while we're on the subject of things I hate in this game, I freaking hate the pinging sound in the music. It is just so horrible, because if it wasn't for that, the music would be, just your normal bland kart racing music, but that just pierces my skull. But don't take my word for it, listen for yourself. I swear, every time I hear that noise is another person I'm going to kill. The controls are also terrible. The standard keyboard controls are set up where the D-pad is your left, right, and brake, and then Alt is your gas pedal, Control is your fire, and Space is your handbrake turn. And what it does is it just gives you carpal tunnel, because there is no keyboard I've found where there isn't a big space in between Alt and Control. And you just can't keep your fingers there. Not to mention, your pinky's off to the side on the space bar, and it's bound to get lazy and make you just handbrake turn into anything. The standard keyboard controls really aren't worth getting angry over though, since you can change them really easily. It's just, where this game really gets annoying is trying to set up a modern gamepad. And this is where things get really frustrating, because for some reason the game just had to make me turn left all the time. And if you try to mess with the center point to fix it, you will still have a heck of a time turning right. I had this problem with every USB controller I own. The AI, or should I say lack thereof, is also pretty infuriating. They don't actually race at all. All of them just follow one another along the same path over the entire course. They don't jump, the speed boosts don't affect them, and they don't have or use items. At least you can't fault the designers for putting rubber banding AI in the game, but I would rather have that than no AI at all. This game would be better if they took out the other carts and just have you race against a time limit, as that is exactly the same as what they did for the other racers. They will always make it across the finish line at the exact same moment, each time they go around the track. Well, that is of course if you don't shoot them with your hedgehogs, which, with the fireballs and ice cubes, are the only useful items in the game, as they all shoot forward and disappear if you miss. They also have the odd ability to turn with the direction of your cart after you shoot them. I rather like that, as it makes up for the lack of any red shell-like item. You also keep all the items that you had in between races. There are quite a few items in Wacky Wheels, and they are actually original, but the problem with them is items like the bomb, oil slick, and beach balls of death, well, other than the fact that all of them just spin you around, is that all of them rely on the computer running into them. But since the other racers all follow the exact same line, you have to memorize it, so as to not have them in your way and mess up your whole race. Items aren't really all that necessary till the harder difficulty levels, but if you hold down the attack button, you can generate the ice cube so as to always have something. The game also has battle modes, and some duck shooting game where you have 2 minutes to shoot as many ducks as possible with the hedgehogs lying around. Hatless ducks take 1 shot, and the hatted ones take 2. This mode can be challenging until you realize that the ducks have the same issue as the other racers. Just line yourself up in their movement path and fire away. I've been ragging on Wacky Wheels for quite some time, and it deserves all the hate I give it. But it really isn't the worst game ever made. It is very possible to get over its faults and have fun. It's just compared to Mario Kart, and come on, who doesn't compare this game to Mario Kart? There really is no comparison. Mario Kart is better in every way, shape, and form. And the sad part is that that really didn't have to be the case. But Beavis Soft's effort lacked so much that anyone with a Super Nintendo had no reason to put any time into this subpar lazy man's kart game. Anyway, this is Rabara, signing out.